Conspiracy theories. They are everywhere, and they are more popular today than ever before. More Americans and people around the world believe in some form of conspiracy theory and are beginning to question government institutions and experts. Why do more people want to raise against the machine than ever before? Well, it's a complex subject, and we're going to try to take a stab at it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Mighty Mike, and welcome to The Edge. In our last video, we dove into whether or not 5G cell phone towers were causing radiation sickness in humans, which was believed to be the actual cause of the current pandemic. It's not. This week, we are going to take a look into conspiracy theories in general, what they are, why do people believe in them, and what can be done about them. Disclaimer. This episode looks into the mindset and psychology of people who believe in conspiracy theories. This is in no way to make fun of anyone who may be suffering from depression, anxiety, or fear. This is merely to seek general understanding of what is going on in the phenomenon of conspiracy theories. I'm not a psychiatrist, nor am I offering any mental health advice in this video. If you are suffering from any mental health issues, please seek professional help. With that out of the way, let's walk to the edge and see what we can find. Conspiracy theories have existed for a very long time. They're not new, and we're not living in a more paranoid era, despite what the news and social media may believe. Our ancestors had to deal with real-life conspiracies all the time. For example, the Catiline conspiracy, one of ancient Rome's most scandalous conspiracies, unfolded in 63 BC when a Senator Catiline attempted to mount an uprising against the Republic to overthrow the Senate. Or the gunpowder plot of November 5th, 1605, where conspirators rented out a cellar underneath the House of Lords and filled it with 36 barrels of gunpowder to blow up King James in Parliament. Just to be on the safe side. You can never have too much gunpowder. And on April 14th, 1865, John Wilkes Booth assassinated President Abraham Lincoln. This was supposed to be the first stage of a much larger operation to strike a decisive blow against the Union and ignite the fiery loins of the Confederacy once more. John Wilkes Booth took a calculated risk, but boy was he bad at math. Conspiracies have been around as far back as the records go. They will always exist so long as men crave power and wealth and other men have said power and wealth. People will always plot and hide their true intentions from one another. Hell, you might have your own little conspiracy going on. According to recent studies, most spouses hide certain purchases from one another. Be honest, you have a thing of Oreos hidden in that tiny, useless cabinet above the fridge. You ain't fooling anyone. But good on you for utilizing those cabinets. I have no idea what to store up there. So what's the big deal? Should we be concerned that 50% of Americans believe in at least one unfounded conspiracy theory? Or are they just harmless nonsense? Like your uncle who likes to bring up conspiracy theories at family dinners, making an already awkward time with family even more awkward. I'm that guy. Well, there are some legitimate conspiracies out there for sure. And well, there's some that are just crazy monkey crap nonsense. Today we'll be discussing the latter, the monkey crap kind. Funny thing about science, it's a lot like the fashion industry. Always trying to find new ways to look good while trying to destroy the world. And they can never agree on anything. When it comes to conspiracy theories, no one can agree on an exact definition. If you ask different people in different academic fields, they're going to give you different answers. So, for the purpose of this video, I'll be defining a conspiracy theory as a secret plot by powerful people or organizations working together to advance some kind of sinister goal through deception and general levels of Dr. Evil shenanigans. My first-hand experience with conspiracy theories began all the way back in 2007 with the so-called truther movement. 6 years after 9/11, the internet was roaring with conspiracy theories, and I was along for the ride. To my ex-girlfriend at the time, I am so sorry you had to go through that with me. If you're not familiar with the truther movement, they're a subsection of society that believes that the government, big corporations, your fifth grade teacher have all been lying to you about pretty much everything. And oh boy, did I fall down that rabbit hole and gobble it all up. I watched all the videos explaining how 9/11 was an inside job, the Federal Reserve was some evil island Jekyll monster or something like that. JFK was killed by said Federal Reserve monster. I was all into it. My favorites were how the Freemasons were trying to take over the world, but somehow the Bilderbergers, the Rockefellers, the Illuminati, they were also trying to take over the world, which was a bit confusing for even back then. Are they separate groups? Are they working together? If so, who's going to be the supreme leader? Are they going to be like having a Congress, a council? How much should they match on the 401k plans? These are some of the questions the truther movement couldn't seem to answer. And depending on who you spoke with, they had their own flavor of crazy so-called truth. And if you're going to get two conspiracy theories together in one room, depending on the conspiracy theories they believed in, bring a bag of popcorn. It's a spectacle you're going to enjoy. Even though no two conspiracy theorists believe in the same exact thing, somehow they sure as hell knew exactly what the plans of the so-called evil groups were up to almost an eerie detail. Which brings me to my next big question. If the truthers know so much about these groups, these evil organizations, how the hell are these so-called secret groups still able to continue on doing what they do in the shadows nonetheless, without any hard evidence leaking out and destroying them? Well, let's get into that. David Robert Grimes, a physicist at Oxford University, developed a mathematical equation that can calculate the probability of some widely believed conspiracy theories and why most could not have lasted very long without them being uncovered. Grimes' 2016 study revealed that for a good old-fashioned cover-up to stay under wraps for a decade, fewer than 1,000 people would need to be involved. And to remain a secret for a century, the number of people on the inside would need to be below 125 people. Considering that the most popular conspiracy theories would realistically involve thousands of people, the odds aren't great. Grimes, speaking with The Guardian, said, "My results suggest that any conspiracy with over a few hundred people rapidly collapses. The big science conspiracies would not be sustainable. The big science conspiracies being vaccines, climate change, and cure for cancer." Now you may, my dear viewer, be sitting there saying to yourself, "Mike, you're such a fool," and in which most cases I would totally agree with you. But you continue. They don't need a lot of people in the inside. They can keep this on the DL. They just need to have a few people at the top to know, and they can just keep the lackeys in the dark about everything else. And I would say that is a totally plausible scenario. But I would strongly refer you back to your comment and encourage you to have another listen to yourself as you say that sentence out loud again, but slower. Wait. The question is, how do these truthers know so much about these groups if they are so good at keeping secrets? How do they stay secret? How do the truthers know? It's a contradiction according to the evidence. By the very size of some of these conspiracy theories, we should have a ton of evidence by now. These mainstream conspiracy theories should have collapsed underneath their own weight a long time ago. For example, on June 14, 2013, the U.S. Justice Department charged Edward Snowden, a consultant employed by Bose Allen and Hamilton, with theft of unauthorized communications of national defense information and willful communication of classified communications intelligence information to unauthorized person. The latter two charges are violations of the 1917 Espionage Act. Edward Snowden became one of the most infamous whistleblowers in U.S. history. Regardless of what you may think of him, his releasing of the classified documents from the NSA shine a light on the federal government's role in domestic spying and the surveillance program of U.S. citizens, which began in 2001 right after the Patriot Act was signed into law. That's a full 12 years the NSA worked in the shadows. The government was spying on their own citizens, and it only took one person to bring this information to light. The same exact thing can be said for Chelsea Manning and the releasing of DoD classified documents to WikiLeaks. Chelsea Manning leaked DoD documents in 2010, 7 to 9 years after the Iraq and Afghan wars began, respectively. MKUltra, another true conspiracy theory, began in 1953 and was officially halted in 1973. Project MKUltra was first brought to public attention in 1975 by the Church Committee and the Gerald Ford's Commission on CIA Activities within the United States, also known as the Rockefeller Commission. That was only 22 years after it had begun and 2 years after it was halted. Conspiracy theories like NASA faked the moon landing, Big Pharma has a cure for cancer, climate change is a hoax, and vaccines are dangerous require tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people to be on the inside. Eventually someone, somewhere will have a conscience and will do something about it. So this brings me back to my original question. How do so many truthers know so much about these so-called groups without any realistic or substantiated evidence to back them up? The answer, they don't. Most of the so-called evidence they parade around is largely conjecture, misinformation, or to put it bluntly, made up. Why though? Why do so many people of reasonable intelligence find conspiracy theories so appealing? The truth is, there is no concrete theories on the topic. There are, and not to be annoying about you overusing the word theories, only theories about why. Some of these theories overlap, some of them reinforce, some of them just straight up contradict one another. Funny how science do. Some of the more popular reasons why people believe in conspiracy theories are that they're constantly being bombarded and immersed in theories all day, usually through their social media feeds and news outlets. An article written by The Verge in 2019 about Facebook moderators, the unfortunate souls that have to watch videos ranging from sweet little puppies all the way to people being straight up murdered, found out that a lot of these moderators were beginning to doubt the official stories of certain events and were actually beginning to believe in the conspiracy theories of the videos. The more they watched, the more they believed. And you may be saying to yourself, that's just because they're becoming woke, Mike. Maybe, maybe not. They go on to say, We've got some data on this from 9/11 conspiracy theories showing that one of the big predictors of whether or not someone believed in a particular theory is how much they are exposed to it. So the act of continually watching something Clockwork Orange style may simply be indoctrinating you. Though this is a very limited data set that they're going off of, but it does make for an interesting case someone's far smarter than me should definitely look into. Another theory about conspiracy theories is based on a meta-analysis from 96 studies looking into the beliefs and origins of conspiracy theories. It concluded that fear and anxiety were reported as positive predictors of conspiracy beliefs. As people are anxious, fear a threatening situation, or have low perceived feelings of control over situations, they tend to conspiracies. Coupled with the desire to have a perceived control over the environment and a general concept of making sense of the world, such sense-making motivations is central to conspiracy theories as it provides explanations for events and, in most of the time, an entity to blame. Now that I think about it, it all makes sense from an evolutionary point of view. If you were swinging from the trees and you heard a rustling in the bush, you would think it's a tiger and you would run. If you were heading out to the river to get a drink of water and you saw your monkey girlfriend hanging out with that monkey guy she told you not to worry about, well, that bastard, you better get your projectile poop ready. I'll leave the link in the description below in case you guys are sitting at home with nothing to do and you want to get into some eye-crossing heavy reading. What is the truth? Well, no one really knows what the truth is. What is believed to be true today will be eclipsed by something new discovered tomorrow. The only constant in life is change. New facts and information are always being discovered. Old ideas are constantly being revisited and reworked. That is the way of life. Nothing stays the same. And when it comes to conspiracy theories, sometimes they are true. President Nixon lied, then resigned for ordering his staff to break into the Watergate Hotel to spy on Democrats. The federal government was stealing dead bodies because, well, they needed human tissue samples to study the effects of radioactive fallout as they blew up nuclear bombs. They were straight up grave robbing people. And as we discussed earlier, the CIA started using volunteers, and I use the word volunteer very loosely here, in dosing trials for mind control operations. MK Ultra left many victims permanently mentally disabled. Like I said, sometimes conspiracy theories are true. But, and here's the big but, the government is really good at keeping records of a lot of their dirty exploits. It's how we know a lot about the three previous examples. And oh boy, are there a lot more. Tuskegee Airmen, like theory of breakout in San Francisco, etc. The list goes on. Man, why is our government such assholes? There is plenty of evidence to support these theories. With the other ones, there is none, other than conjecture, fancy salesmen trying to push an idea, a narrative, an agenda, or expensive snake health products. Many people who believe in these conspiracy theories are essentially scared. They feel powerless due to the current event going on. They're looking for answers, and because they're scared, that's where the problem begins. It leaves a lot of people open and vulnerable to snake oil salesmen, people with their own agendas and narratives who may not have the best intentions in mind. This is how cults get started. They provide a sense of being and understanding. And if you ever said to yourself, well, I would never ever drink the Kool-Aid, do you currently believe in conspiracy theories? If so, what flavor do you enjoy? Because I have purple and I have red. And when it comes to politics, President Trump, being another salesman, was largely elected on fear-based claims. The scared and the helpless seeking answers and safety from some perceived dangerous entity, either hordes of diseased mutant immigrants coming across the border, the federal government overreaching in our lives, or China is stealing all of our jobs. Conspiracy theories, when unfounded and not based on any actual evidence, can have some real-world negative effects. They can be devastating to people caught in the delusional crossfires of some of its proponents. On December 14th, 2012, in a small town of Newtown, Connecticut, a 20-year-old gunman walked into Sandy Hook Elementary School and proceeded to shoot and kill 26 people, 20 of whom were under the ages of 7. Following the aftermath of the incident, you guessed it, conspiracy theories ran wild. There's something in the conspiracy community known as a false flag operation. It's essentially where the government or organization causes an event, then blames it on something else, typically a perceived enemy, in order to push a certain agenda. Before any of the info of the victims of the attack could be released, before the little broken bodies could be carried away from the horrific scene, before anyone truly knew anything about what just happened, the conspiracy theorists began to make claims that the event was entirely made up by the government. Memes and websites popped up. Mainstream theorists and their followers created videos and started posting on social media. The conspiracy machine was in full swing. It was a real shitstorm of shit-throwing monkeys all afraid of tigers in the bushes. And of course, that dude with your girl. It didn't end there. The truthers started sending death threats to survivors, claiming survivors were actually crisis actors hired by FEMA to perpetuate some government false flag operation. They harassed victims who were grieving and experiencing what I can only imagine living in hell would be like. Without bothering to do any research, without bothering to verify claims, without actually questioning their own methods, tactics, and the sources of info they are deriving their unquestionable certainty from, they jumped into action with unwavering nerve and embraced a complete and utter lie. And in the process of trying to feel safe and secure, to understand what happened, they played themselves and ultimately made an already shitty situation shittier somehow. Way to go, guys. When it comes to the truth, there is no clear answer about anything. The world is more complex than you can imagine. We live in a sea of ever shifting grays. If you truly seek the truth, then know this. The only thing you can know for certain in this life is how little you truly know. It's only the arrogant and the ignorant that assume to know the answers to everything, especially to events and topics that have no evidence to back up their claims. Lashing out at victims because of your worldview is under attack or you feel threatened by some event just makes things worse. So do this. Refrain from having an opinion on all events for 72 hours after it has happened. After 72 hours, view all sides of the event with an open mind and a desire to find the truth. Find verifiable evidence to support any claims you or someone else may have. And most important of all, when you think the world is wrong, it's more likely you're the one that is wrong. If you wish to be enlightened or woke, you have to question everything, especially yourself.